For roughly a decade, super teams have been prevalent in the NBA. Superstars in NBA aspire to win championships, and they feel that the best way to achieve this feat is by joining forces. We saw Paul Pierce, KG, and Ray Allen do this in 2008 with the Boston Celtics, LeBron James, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh with the Miami Heat, and of course we saw Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson do it, forming arguably the best team ever. The nature of today's NBA has shifted from big threes to super duos, pairing two NBA stars together in order to contend for a title. We see this all across the NBA. To name a few pairings, we have James Harden and Russell Westbrook, Kyrie and Kevin Durant, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, and LeBron James and Anthony Davis, who will be competing in the NBA Finals. We see that the formula of building a super team is what's trending, but what would happen if the Miami Heat were to shock the basketball universe by beating the Lakers in the finals? If we were at the beginning of the NBA season and someone bet me that the Miami Heat would demolish the Bucks and breeze through the Celtics on their way to the NBA Finals, I would have laughed in their face and betted my life savings. Fortunately for me, no one proposed such a bet, otherwise today I'd be explaining to everyone why I'm hanging outside of Sam's Club stealing groceries. But let's be real with each other for a second. If you were in that situation, you probably wouldn't have put up your life savings, but I'm sure you would have taken the bet. I mean, think about it. The Heat have a total of 7 undrafted players. Half of Miami's team should even be in the NBA, much less the NBA Finals. Duncan Robinson, who's a major part of Miami's success, used to play Division III basketball. I'm not saying D3 hoops is trash. I mean, a lot of those boys can ball, but for Duncan Robinson to start his post-high school career at a D3 school and grind his way into the starting lineup of an NBA Finals team is incredible. It takes a high level of mental fortitude to move up in the ranks like Duncan did. He has a chip on his shoulder, just like the rest of this Miami Heat squad. Now here's another fun fact. Throughout the entire Miami Heat roster, only 4 players were NBA lottery picks. Those 4 are Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Andre Iguodala, and Kelly Olynyk. The Lakers have 4 lottery picks in their starting lineup alone, 2 of them being number 1 overall picks. Now, some might say this isn't 3,000 years ago or some fairy tale. This is the NBA Finals. The Lakers are going to run over the Heat. But I wouldn't be too sure about that. I mean, it is 2020 and we've had a lot of crazy things happen. And besides, the last time the Lakers and the Miami Heat met was in the regular season, and that game went down to the wire. All Jimmy needed to do was knock down an open shot. The game would have gone into OT, and maybe Miami's momentum would have carried them to the victory. Whether you wanted to believe it or not, the Miami Heat can beat the Lakers in a best of 7. Now, let's say that does happen. Miami wins, Jimmy, Bam, or whoever wins the Finals MVP. I can guarantee you, if not all, most medium to small market teams will begin to take a new approach in building their roster. You'll see front offices move away from trying to bring in stat stuffers like Westbrook or Harden and start by recruiting a true leader, someone like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Buckets doesn't put up mind-boggling numbers, but has a tremendous impact on teams in ways that are not shown in the box score. Until recently, I was a big hater of Jimmy Butler, but I started to realize how his presence or lack thereof changes teams. The Bulls and the Timberwolves have not even been close to the playoffs since Jimmy Butler left. The 76ers, if you ask me, they've downgraded since his departure. And speaking of the Sixers, that brings me to the next ingredient in the formula, which is recruiting straight up dogs. People that will go the extra mile for the W. Unless your name is LeBron James, you cannot do it all yourself. And you can't just have talent either. Jimmy had Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons alongside him, and they still couldn't get over the hump. It takes more than talent. It takes toughness, resilience, and effort. Exactly what this Miami team has shown throughout the year. And lastly, you need people that can make plays and shine within their respective role, like Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and Bam Adebayo. Selfless guys who will step up when their name is called. Now, if you think I'm just chatting or saying anything, think about the Los Angeles Clippers in the 2019 playoffs. As the 8th seed being led by Tobias Harris and Lou Will, they managed to win 2 games against the KD Warriors. This team was coached by Doc Rivers, and I'm sure he got a lot of credit for stealing 2 games with the team he had. Fast forward a year later, Doc Rivers is getting fired for losing with PG and Kawhi. But Doc isn't the reason why the Kawhi-led Clippers lost this year. It's because the Super Duo's formula is unreliable. In Game 7 of this year's Western Conference semifinals, Paul George and Kawhi combined for only 24 points and the Clippers got blown out. Now, if the Clippers took the $30 million they're paying Paul George and went out and got two very solid players like Jusuf Nurkic and Evan Fournier, whose salaries together amount to roughly $30 million, Kawhi could have had 14 points. Shit, he could have had 5 points and the Clippers still would have won the game because the other guys could have carried the load. It's an actual fact that it's much easier to prepare for 2 players than it is for 12. NBA front offices will see that super teams are not it anymore and will stop going all in on 2 players. They'll begin to share the wealth, utilize draft picks, and build a well-orchestrated roster consisting of selfless players. If Miami wins this year, or at least makes it close, and I still see NBA teams spending everything to bring in superstars, I'd be convinced that they don't want to win, they just want to sell tickets.